Welcome into the 32nd edition of Texas Longhorns Live at the Voice of College Football. We appreciate you guys being here. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. We're feeling a little bit down today because of the second loss to Georgia. So please help us out with that. Also, guys, check out the Amazon link in the description. Does not change the buying experience or buying process. Does not change the buying experience as well. All you do, use the link, and it puts a little bit of change into Mark's pocket. Really helps out. Also, check out Mark's call-in show every Thursday, Friday, Saturday post-game, plus Sunday in the morning. Check that out. It really helps out what he's trying to build. And check out the Ole Miss show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Leanne has a lot of recruiting news. It's going to get even more crazy during this time period, I'm sure, with the portal. So please check that out as well. That will touch on some SEC teams other than Ole Miss as well. So check it out. It really helps out what we're doing here. And let's jump into it. Texas, for the second time this year, loses to Georgia 22-19. This game was a lot closer than the first one. Really, the only difference, in my opinion, like the big difference in this game, when we turned the ball over, we didn't turn it over on our side of the field as much. We only did it one time this game, whereas the other game we did it, 3 or 4 times. So that helped out and then made the score closer, but it was still a rock fight defensively with 2 really good defenses going at it, Gerald.
Yeah, I mean, I think the stat I found this weekend that was like shocking to me. If you combined the 2 passing performances that Georgia had against Texas, there are 6 teams that gave up more passing yardage to Georgia than Texas did in 2 games. Like, that's how good the defense was in this matchup. This is probably like the second or third time in the last 10 years that we've seen a championship level defense for Texas not get the same energy from the offense. But, when push comes to shove, the breaks in the game were all over the field, and Texas is still not learning how to win, right? Because they've learned how to win, but I think they're still learning the difference between like championship level execution, especially on that offensive side. Than regular teams. Like, there's a difference between an elite team like Georgia that can execute, play in and play out. They have a one-armed quarterback come in overtime and they score a touchdown, right? Texas has an opportunity for a pick 6 and players are celebrating instead of blocking, right? Those are the little differences between a good team and an elite team, between a team that will play for a championship and a team that will win a championship. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, like, you have to hold this game and this season pretty loosely, right? Because if you had told me, again, I said this on Sunday, if you had told me 3 years ago Texas goes 11-2 in the first year in the SEC and they're playing for college football playoff, I'm ecstatic. I'm through the freaking roof, right? At the start of the year, I picked Texas 10-2, 11-1 in the regular season and played for an SEC championship. So, like, they've met expectations. They have met what we expected from them this year. Now, they had goals of an SEC championship on their own, and I understand, but like, ultimately, when push comes to shove, like, the weird part about this is that Texas was a good team this year, but we can see very clearly the spots where they left plays, they left moments, they left points on the field, and that's where it gets frustrating. And that's why you have to be able to hold multiple thoughts in your head, right? You have to be able to say that yes, Texas hit expectations, but also Texas could have and probably should have exceeded those expectations.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Before you joined me as my co-host on here, I pointed that out of where my brain was in the exact same 2 places where I look at this team and I look at the field of college football and I say, this team is leaving stuff on the bone. And if they start to take that off the bone, they can jump into that clear national championship team, because there really isn't that team right now. I think Oregon's a really good team, but their defense struggles. Someone threw out a stat today. I think they play 3 college football playoff teams, and they've given up over 30 points to all of them, and Ashton Genty ran crazy on them. So they do struggle defensively. Their offense is phenomenal. They're going to be really hard to stop whoever gets to play them in their first game, whether that's Ohio State or Tennessee. But Texas just leaves too much on the bone. But the same thing can be true of, hey, this is still a really good year. Now, is it the year that it could be where it could be special? No. And this is it. This is your last chance. You have 2 weeks to correct these. Once you jump into Clemson, whatever team you see show up versus Clemson is going to be this team we see show up the rest of the year. That's what's going to happen. They're not going to be able to make enough changes, in my opinion, from in between weeks after that. So it is what it is. We'll see the adjustments that had to be made, and we'll jump into the bad real quick. And we might as well start out. This is the biggest thing to me, leaving points on the field. We just talked about it, shooting yourself in the foot. And this is Sark with his red zone offense as he's been here. I'm going to give him a pass for his first year. I didn't even look at his first year. I went second year, third year, and fourth year. Second year, 13th in the country in red zone scoring. That's pretty good. I would love to have that right now. last year, 89th in the country in red zone scoring. By the way, here's something crazy. Iowa was 90th. We were one spot ahead of Iowa in red zone scoring last year with two really good NFL wide receivers and an NFL running back for most of the year and a really good offensive line with an NFL quarterback. I just don't understand how that happens. Then I went into the season and said, can you get a little bit better? Can you be in the 50s? That's all I'm asking for. If you're in the 50s, I think that'd be nice. Well, no, you got even – yeah, don't suck. Well, you got worse. You are 106th in the country currently right now. I do not understand this. I don't understand it. I think every one of these offensive linemen is going to play in the NFL. I'm pretty confident in saying that. Quinn Ewers, whether you love him or not, is going to be drafted in the NFL. He will get reps as a starting NFL quarterback at some time during his career. Running back, you could debate whether we have a high-level running back. We have NFL running backs. James Blue and Wisner will both play in the NFL. We have NFL wide receivers. But this, to me, is a Steve Sarkisian problem because I saw it with the Atlanta Falcons as well. He lost his job with the Atlanta Falcons for the exact same reason. He was an average play caller in the red zone, and that gets you murdered in the NFL. The NFL, it's even more important to score points in the red zone because guess what? Most teams get to the red zone. It comes down to who executes in the red zone when they get there. It's the same thing when you're playing high-level college football, when you play the Georgias, the Oregons, the Ohio States. Executing in key moments, third down, fourth down, and red zone. How do you execute with that? He's pretty good on execution with third down. He's pretty good with execution on fourth down. There's something about the red zone that I just don't understand. And people are going to point to Quinn Ewers. Well, guess what? Quinn Ewers was a freshman starting quarterback in 2022, and we were 13th. So to me, then, if you relied a lot on your two NFL running backs, Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson, once they weren't there, it came down to your play calling. He has to figure this out. If that does not get any better, we'll probably beat Clemson. I think actually the second round match would be easier. We'll beat Arizona State. We're not beating Oregon. We're not beating Ohio State. And we're not beating Tennessee with the 106th red zone scoring offense. It isn't going to happen.
I mean, the key is just to score, 60-yard touchdowns, right? That is the key to Texas's game, is to score 60-yard touchdowns. Now, and I love that you brought up like those key moments because yes, it's more crucial in the NFL, but football is football, right? Regardless of the level, middle school, high school, Pee Wee, Pop Warner, NFL, football is football, right? It's won and lost in the trenches, and trading 4s for 3s gets you, or 7s for 3s gets you beat every time. The other thing that you pointed out is third downs. That was something that was like awful this week. And part of the issue was not the third downs, but the first downs, right? Texas had an average, I think, 11.6 yards to go on third downs. And that's because 4 of Georgia's 6 sacks came on first down. Like ridiculous, like absolutely nuts. Like that's how you lose these games because you put yourself behind the chains. And then when it's 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, hell, even 3rd and 7, right? Georgia can pin their ears back, rush 5 guys, have play a bunch of back in the backfield in the secondary. Get that word out. Yeah, play a bunch in the secondary and pick you apart. And that was how Georgia just dominated Texas with basic man coverage, just man to man. We're going to out athlete you because they knew 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12. They're going to have to pass the ball. So that's another thing that I really Texas getting behind the chains. They are, and this is where I think the Quinn Ewers arguments could come in. Like Texas's offensive line and Quinn Ewers, the combination of them cannot get it done when it's 3rd and plus, when it's 3rd and behind the chains. And that is an issue. Granted, if you don't get stuck in those situations, if you get 3 or 4 yards on 1st and 2nd down, you're not dealing with that. So there's it cuts both ways.
Yeah, there's so many, aspects to this game, but the red zone thing is just not just this game. It's been 2 years now. That's the thing that bothers me the most, whereas like the pressures, like here's another stat for Georgia. So we've given up 28 sacks on the year, 13 have come to Georgia. So that just tells me we have a Georgia issue when it comes to that. If I can write that off to that. I can't write red zone off to that because I've seen it for almost 2.5 years now of just really bad red zone execution. And I can't give any excuses to Sark anymore because the personnel has changed enough too, to where guess what? The only thing is left. Steve Sarkisian. I mean, you've had Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, Jatavian Sanders, Jonathan Brooks, and you're not able to elevate that to a top 25, top 30. Give me top 50 red zone offense. I just have issues with that.
If I see another like goal line back shoulder fade, I might scream. I'm just going to scream, throw something. My kids are going to wonder why daddy's mad because the coach is trying to give him an aneurysm, right? I do not want to see another sideline back shoulder red zone fade. If I see another one, I'm going to throw up. I can't deal with it.
Yeah, so in the overtime, what did we do? We ran a screen and 2 fade routes, or no, we ran the Arch Manning play and then 2 fade routes, I believe, or something like that. It's like,
Yep.
I just don't understand that. And I will say this, I don't think Arch should start, but if we just tried to use him like he gets every rep in the red zone, I wouldn't hate that. Like, at least you're trying to do something now to change the pattern, because what you're showing has not worked. It just does not work.
I mean, I anticipate seeing like a pop pass or a jump pass at some point where he kind of fakes the run, and they did that. They did that. You know, we could never come up with a safe for work name for the snap between the legs to the running back, the direct snap. But like they're doing some things, and I guarantee you, like Sark probably has a couple of other weird things in his bag for that. But yeah, I mean, when you trot out the guy. I mean, like any 2 quarterback package, when you trot out the one guy, when you trot out Tim Tebow, you knew what was coming, right? That's why the pop pass was always so effective, because you assumed Tim Tebow was going to run, right? So that's the problem with the 2 quarterback system, is that like, okay, we're going to expect a zone read from Arch, or we're going to and let him maybe pull one and throw a slant and see what happens. But there is this is not I'm not like the pull Quinn guy either, especially
no.
You change the name on the back of any other jersey, and somebody tells me to pull a starting 3-year starter in week 14, I'm going to call you crazy, right? Like, and again, we know we get with Quinn. That's a whole other conversation. But ultimately, Texas not being able to run the ball in the red zone is a problem. That's an offensive line issue. That is a Kyle Flood issue. And as good as Kyle Flood has been, that is a black mark for him, right? Because you have to be able to run the ball in within the 10 yards. Like that's football 101. Again, I said it before, I'll say it again. You'll get tired of hearing me say it. Football is won or lost in the trenches, right? And not being able to execute in the red zone a lot of times comes down to your offensive line, and it's like a wanted issue. It's a who wants it more? Who's gonna do the things that they need to do to get those 1, 2, 3 yards? And Texas hasn't done it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the thing I get when you say the red zone and running, first thing that comes to my mind is that Oklahoma Red River 4 plays from the 1, and you can't get 1 yard with that offensive line with all those weapons. I just don't understand it. And I think sometimes he gets a little bit too cute, and I don't know if it's an ego thing or, I mean, obviously it's a big part of the playbook, but I also think he's going to have to, if we do play Georgia again, you're going to have to completely abandon outside zone. It does not work versus this team at all. If anything, it kills you because you just hold on it, and then you're back another 10 yards, and then you're putting the pressure on Quinn to go make a play. And listen, Quinn can do that once in a while. We saw it. He escaped the pocket, delivered the ball to Matthew Golden. But if you're relying on that too frequently, he cannot do it. He is not – listen, this analogy was made on Fox Sports a long time ago and always stuck with me. There are trailers and there are trucks. Quinn is a trailer. He's not a truck. He does not pull you along. He can jump in the trailer. He can go along on the ride with you, but he cannot pull you along. He's good enough to win a championship with if everything is clean, good enough, and you're ahead of the sticks. You're going, and once in a while he can deliver off script. But if you're constantly asking him to deliver off script, he can't do it. And guess what? That's not a bad thing. There's very few guys in general in football that can do that. There's Patrick Mahomes, there's Josh Allen, there's Lamar Jackson, but the vast majority of guys, even in the NFL, can't do that. It's just what it is. I don't like the worst drive of that whole game was when we needed the score and he threw that interception. We ran the ball, which I don't understand why. And I'm pretty sure it was an outside zone, which makes it even worse. Then we ran a screen, and then it was 3rd and 17, and it was like, hey, Quinn, go get us 18 yards on this play. And Cam Williams gets pushed back 2 yards. There's still enough for him to step into it. He makes a bad read. But overall, that drive was just horrendous, and it kind of just put a cap and a bubble on what this Texas team has been on this year of when they get behind the chains, that's what ends up happening, and it's not good enough. And it's hard for me to put all the blame on Quinn. Believe me, we're going to go through it. There's like 2 or 3 other things I want to touch on before we move on from this, but it's just people need to stop blaming Quinn. And I agree with you. The name on the back, if his name was Arch Wells, no one would be calling for his name. Nobody. It's because of the name on the back of the jersey people are calling for it. You and I have both watched him play. He has more talent than Quinn. I will 100% sign off on that. Yeah. But he cannot run the offense. We've seen that in the ULM game and the Mississippi State game. He does not believe in checkdowns. His checkdown is a 40-yard bomb. That's what he believes in.
Screw it, Golden's down there somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah.
So, no, you're absolutely right. And again, he's a redshirt freshman, and I'm not I've been accused of being a sunshine pumper. I'm not. I'm just a pragmatist. I've watched enough football. I've played enough football. Like, you do not pull your quarterback in week 14, period. Unless he is he has to like fight the coach's wife or something to get pulled. Like it has to be something ridiculously extreme to get pulled. Like, and again, we Texas fans, this is like the adage for all of football, right? The backup quarterback is always the most popular man in town, and it is like on steroids in Austin, Texas. Where like, I mean, people were calling for Vince Young's head during that OU game that he threw a bunch of interceptions, right? And now Vince Young, we say it in hushed tones. I was there at games where people were cussing Colt McCoy's name in his first couple of years because he struggled and they wanted Texas to pull him, right? Like those guys are guys now that we have on our Mount Rushmore. It is the same thing over and over and over again. And I'm not saying that Quinn is Vince. I'm not saying Quinn is Colt. But what I am saying is that University of Texas fans, I love you. I'm one of you. I bleed the burnt orange. I've got the diploma on my wall right over there. But like we fall in love with the backup quarterback because we get emotional. We are invested in it and we get emotional and we need something to blame. And we're not thinking practical about these things.
Yeah, so the next thing we'll talk about, well, I already hit on the offensive line. To me, the offensive line is good. It's not great. It's not living up to the expectations we had coming into the year, where you look at the offensive line and you think, man, and even now, like you still have the tackles and Banks. I mean, yeah, Kelvin Banks will be a top 10 pick, but you're still getting Cameron Williams mocked in the first round. And then the other guys are going to play in the NFL. And it's like, we can't even move. Like, listen, this Georgia front is great, but if you have those guys, you should be able to blow them off the ball once in a while. I'm not even asking for 50% of the time. Can I get 25% of the time? Because right now it looks like I think we've carried the ball like 30 something times versus them, and we've maybe won 4 or 5 reps. We maybe won 4 or 5 of those reps.
My ask is really simple. Is I don't want you looking in the backfield watching somebody get tackled as an offensive line. That is like if you can do that, just start there. Trevor Gooseby is like an easy target because he's a freshman, right? But there were 2 spots where I was like, that's on Gooseby. That's on Gooseby. Like I said it about special teams last week. I'm going to say it. The offensive line is at its best when you don't notice it, right? When I don't see, they were talking about somebody beating their man on a screen early in the game. And I was like, that was Big Gooseby. And again, redshirt freshman. This is his first real start, right? He got in relief last week and then coming in to start, last week, coming in to start. So, like, this is not shots at him. I'm just saying, like, that's just an example of, like, I don't like seeing you be a teach tape for a defensive player or watching your quarterback get blown up in the backfield. Like, the offensive line has to be better. And again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think Cam Williams needs to come back. I think mentally it's just the mental eval is not great on him. He cannot hold his water in a lot of ways on just procedural penalties. Like false starts, cannot have that. Cannot have killer holding calls. And again, he's a guy who we thought would have a longer development curve, but he's honestly ahead of the curve right now. So like, what's another year? I think DJ Campbell probably needs to come back. I've seen DJ Campbell get dog cussed a bunch of times. And I love that kid. I've been a DJ Campbell fan since day one, since I heard about that kid, this big offensive lineman who also already played for the Longhorns in high school, right? Like I've been a big fan of his for a long time, but I think he needs to come back. But, the offensive line has to be better because this is big boy football. Like I've said it before. I'll say it again. I've already said it today. Like, won and lost in the trenches. This game was lost in the trenches. The Georgia defensive line, the Georgia front 7 was more athletic, faster, and frankly wanted it more than Texas in a lot of ways.
Burks, I appreciate that. Yes, please hit the like button and subscribe. Grow the channel. It really helps us out. Share this out with your friends and family. And Gerald, I completely agree with you. He definitely needs to come back. DJ Campbell shouldn't even think about going to the NFL. Like, he's getting pulled in certain games because he can't perform. Like Cole Hudson, they're like, Cole, we need you to go in there. We saw that in this game. He got pulled for a little bit. So, yeah, he should definitely come back. Cameron Williams, I definitely think should come back. And honestly, the only guy to me that played well as an offensive lineman in this game was Jake Majors. I thought he played decently well. Everyone else, not well. Like, honestly, Trevor Gooseby didn't play that great, but he was probably our second best offensive lineman. Like, Hayden Connor, other than pass pro, was god-awful in the run game. He got dominated in the run game. And the play you mentioned, the Trevor Gooseby one, yeah, he goes for, I believe it was Jalen Walker, and instead of going for the shoulder, like the inside shoulder, he goes for the outside shoulder, which I don't know why, because if he goes for the inside and misses, at least that prevents Jalen Walker from immediately making the play. And there was no one in front of Jaden Blue. He could have run for a very long time. Yeah. So, and that's the thing, like that. So that's why it's a combination of like 10 different things in this game. Like, that's a good play call from Sark. That's bad execution. There are other play calls where there was never a chance for it, and it was a bad play call. Then there were play calls with Quinn Ewers didn't see it, threw an interception or didn't see it, took a sack. listen, guys, there's so many different things, and you could do the same thing if we flip this game and Georgia would have lost. They would be doing the same thing because they didn't play great either on the offensive side of the ball, especially. So it is what it is. Last thing we're going to touch on, special teams. Bert Auburn misses 2 field goals. And the thing is, I don't even blame for the one. It's 51 yards. To me in college, I'm never going to blame someone for that long a field goal. The other one is 42 yards. He made the 39-yarder barely and then didn't adjust his kick whatsoever, and it missed right on down the right upright. And like you said, they've lined it up on the right hash because that's where he wants it. I would be saying, listen, you keep missing from the right hash. We're done with the right hash. We're lining up on the left, and then we'll see what happens because clearly where you want it is not working, brother.
Yeah, and again, not to double down, but like the fact that he missed that second field goal was on the offensive line and somebody not holding their water. It's a false start. You took 3 points off the board. So that's, again, compounding issues. It's a complex thing. But yeah, this is no shade at Jeff Banks. Jeff Banks is one of the most multifaceted coaches in the country, right? Elite recruiter, elite tight ends coach, and in years past has looked like an elite special teams coach. I'm not sure what's up with this group, right? I don't know what's going on because the punting situation, you need more out of your punter. You need more out of your kicker. You need your kicker to be able to make them from 45 and inside is a fairly fair expectation for a guy. I think the most egregious one though, and everyone's going to talk about this, the fake punt, right? That's the one that jumps off the page because that ultimately, you can draw a straight line from that fake punt to going to overtime and losing that game. Because if Texas gets to stop there, they've got all the freaking momentum. They're going to score, and it's going to look like a completely different game. And how do we not, as a special teams unit, know that they've got the backup punter and a guy who hasn't punted in like years, right? He hasn't taken a serious punt in years. How do we not just, even if you're going for the block in that situation, you blow that play up, right? I don't know why you're not going after that guy. I know it's a tight game. I know you want to play it safe, but like, you know that the punter is not in there. You know, he's in the injury tent. Like, why are you not prepared for that? That is, again, these are just these, and that's not on the players. That's on the coaches. The players ran the play that they called. That is a coaching issue.
Yeah, and the perfect example of this is not knowing like the personnel well enough because I guess up until that point they would send Malachi Starks in motion if they ever did that. That wasn't Malachi Starks. That was Arian Smith. So as soon as he went in motion, that should have been red flags, red buzzers going off of something's going on here. I don't know what, but look at that guy, pay attention to that guy, and no one did. Like Maurice Blackwood did the total opposite of paying attention. He immediately, as soon as the ball was snapped, looked exactly to whoever that was. I don't know who was lining up on the outside, but immediately turned his back, and Arian Smith's just running down the field behind him. And I'm like, dude, all you had to do was check inside for 1 second, and that blows up the play because you have enough athleticism to go in there and stop it. But immediately just turned his back. So, yeah, it definitely is on the players and then also special teams coach on that of, hey, when they do this is what this means. If you see this guy in motion, it's not normal. That should send off a buzzer in your head. Something's going on. And then just like you said, the punter's injured. That right there should have put you on high alert of, hey, something could happen here because the guy they have back there has never punted this year. And I think it was their kicker. So many things that should have went off in your head on that play, honestly.
Yeah. It is that one is I think the most inexcusable to me, and that's on the coaching because they did not see that one coming.
Yeah, we'll move to the good. I think this is pretty simple. The defense has been good all year. They make plays when they need to be. Like I told Gerald beforehand going into this, I was watching Brooks Austin, and he talked about how he thinks Texas defense is the best in the country. Just the way they play, the way they cover people. The way they fly around the football, and it's hilarious. He stopped and paused it for a second, circled Michael Tabb, and was like, love this dude. This dude's a green grinder, da-da-da-da-da. And he is. Like, the play that was perfect, Michael Taft knows early, comes down in the box, and then I believe blows up Trevor Etienne, takes on a guard, sheds him, and then blows up Trevor Etienne. And you're asking that from a safety who's like 200 pounds, and the offensive lineman's walk on safety, and the guard's 300-something pounds, and he takes him on, beats him, and then gets to Trevor Etienne. So this defense is special, man.
It is an all-timer. It is an all-time defense. I was looking at some all-time stats. The last time Texas has given up 4 touchdown passes in a season, they've given up 4 touchdown passes, 19 interceptions. Darrell Royal and Bear Bryant coached against each other in the Cotton Bowl the last time Texas did this. And they only played 10 games that season. So 13 freaking games, Texas only given up 4 passing touchdowns. Like elite defense. And it is sad to see that squandered from an offense that can't figure it out, especially again in the red zone. And that's, well, we've already harped on that. I'm not going to go back to it, but like, this is an elite defense. This defense has a lot of talent. They're going to lose a lot of talent in the offseason. We'll talk about that. That's another conversation for another day. But like, they're still getting a lot of this back next year. Anthony Hill's going to be back. Colin Simmons is going to be back. There's a lot of guys that need to make decisions about where they're going to go. So there should not be a regression from this group. And I'm excited to see that. There were a lot of folks in the first year of Pete Kwiatkowski that wanted him gone. I will never forget being on social media, being on Twitter, and people cussing his name left and right. And now Texas has somehow improved going into the game. I haven't looked at it yet. I don't think they've updated it. But they were the FEI #1 defense in every statistical category. Yards per play, opponent adjusted efficiency, points per drive. They were #1 in all of those categories. So, like, this is a defense that, and really, like, let's just be honest, you should be able to put up 23 points as an offense.
Yes.
If the defense holds somebody under what I guess that was under 17 points in regulation, like, you should be able to do that. This is not on the defense in any way, shape, or form. An offense should be able to put up 3 scores and win a game for you. And that to me, if I'm somebody on the defense, I am frustrated. Obviously, these are championship level mindsets, and they're not really going to blame anybody. They're going to kind of self-blame. But like, this is a defense that could have and should have won this game for Texas, and unfortunately, they did not get the support they needed.
Well, and the funny thing is, they almost won it themselves. They were a Jalen Gilbaugh missed block away from just saying, you know what, we're going to win it ourselves.
Brother, I'm never going to forget that.
Dude, he's going to, if they would have won, he would have been laughed at. Like, yeah, that's funny. You wish you would have blocked there. No, he got yelled at for 1,000%. There's no doubt in my mind. Absolutely. That dude got his ass chewed out for doing that, which he should.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, he should. TD Camp Clendon, I can't really read that last part. Texas can find a way to Atlanta and get beat by Georgia again. Hey, that's a possibility. There's some weird possibilities I thought of. What if we played Notre Dame in the national championship? We beat them. It all comes back around. Texas is back. I think that would be absolutely hilarious and come full circle moment right there. And that could happen, by the way. Like, Notre Dame, no one wants to talk about that. That path with Carson Beck out could definitely happen.
Very, very, very possible. So I want to talk about something good that's going to frustrate people. One of the biggest knocks, I'm gonna say a nice thing about Quinn Ewers. Everybody just hold on to your butts, right? One of the biggest knocks on Quinn Ewers throughout this year has been the inability to push the ball down the field. This was not the game. Looking at statistically, 5 of 10 for 137 on passes deeper than 15 yards, right? More than 200 of his 358 passing yards were on routes that were 5 yards and deeper. Right. Like, so this is one of those things that we've asked of Quinn Ewers all year that he's finally starting to do some of, right? And again, wasn't perfect, was honestly far from good in some spots, was great in some spots. But one of the things that we've wanted to see more of is Texas pushing the ball down the field. And especially against, let's be honest, Georgia's biggest weakness on the defense is that secondary. And so being able to attack them deep, we've asked for it from the offense, we've asked for it from Quinn Ewers, and they did it. It's like, I have to say, when we talk about what Quinn Ewers could do better, we also have to talk about the things that he actually did do better.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, he could have, wasn't a perfect pass, but it was a pretty damn good pass to Matthew Golden there. He probably should have caught that, but again, I can't be hard on that guy. That guy balled out in literally every other aspect, so I'm not going to be too hard on him for that. And that's the thing too. This is, I guess, part of the bad, but we need Isaiah Bond back. He just gives this offense a little bit more juice. I don't think you'll see him versus Clemson. I don't see the point at this point. I mean, he was clearly hurt in this game and then getting rolled up again. I don't think you'll have him versus Clemson, maybe Arizona State. But to me, at that point, if he's not there for Arizona State, are we really going to roll him out on a week's rest to go play Oregon, Ohio State, or Tennessee? I don't think that's probably the best thing either. So I don't know. Maybe you won't get the rest of him. But I feel like we definitely need him to extend the field.
Yeah, I mean, and not just to extend the field, but to be a threat. And that first interception from Quinn was just because Bond doesn't have the movement that he needs to. That ankle is not where it needs to be. And he is a guy who takes the top off the defense, who stresses the safeties, who creates conflict in those areas. And so not having him on the field, not having a guy like Jonte Cook, who has that similar skill set, physically, we'll talk mentally, that's a whole other conversation, but like not having that type of guy on the field, like DeAndre Moore is starting to do some of that. I think Ryan Niblett, when they're able to move him back to wide receiver, could probably do some of that. And these guys that they obviously have in the next class, but for the playoffs, like I think you have to sit him at least for another week. because that gives him a full 3 weeks to get healthy on that ankle effectively. Like, because don't play this week, don't have him play next week. Give him a 3rd week to really get that ankle healthy because you'll need him deep in the playoffs. So I think it makes sense to probably rest him because the offense definitely needs that skill.
Yeah, 100%. And this is the last thing I'll touch on for the good. Matthew Golden, fantastic game. DeAndre Moore, fantastic game. Silas Bolden, I hope to get more reps because, listen, speed and he's tough as hell. Like, he should have dropped that one
hit,
faster.
my gosh.
Yeah, I know. Him catching that was insane. I loved him at Oregon State, and then when we got him, I feel like we haven't let him shown out a little bit. I'm hoping he gets more plays in the game versus Clemson. I also think Amari Niblack should get a little bit more run. We haven't really seen him very much this year. You see him maybe 1 to 2 plays a game. And then Jaden Blue also. Listen, I know he fumbles. You got to have to play him more. He's just too explosive. Listen, if you can't score in the red zone, like you said, you're going to have some explosive plays to go score. You're going to have to. So you're going to have to take that chance.
It's the Jaden Blue tax. Like, you have to just clinch up and hopefully he carries the ball with 2 hands because he's going to make plays like he did against A&M where he taps his foot in the back of the end zone, scores a touchdown, right? Like, he is that kind of playmaker when he can hold on to the ball.
100%. That will do it for the recap. Good and bad. A lot more bad than good in that game. Typically happens after a loss. We concentrate on the bad. But guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. It really helps out. Also, use the Amazon link in the description. Does not change the buying experience or process at all, especially during Christmas time. I bet a lot of people are going to be using it a lot, so please use that link. Also, check out Mark's call-in shows Thursday, Friday, Saturday post-game. Really, I don't think we're going to have any Thursday shows anymore. But you might have, I think the second game would be a Wednesday, I believe. So you'll have a Wednesday call-in show there as well, so please check that out. Also, go over to the Ole Miss channel, subscribe. It really helps out what they're trying to grow. We're trying to get that to monetization, so get it up to 1,000 subs. Please go over there and check that out. Now, the bracket was revealed, and Texas versus Clemson is the matchup. I didn't really know what I was thinking when we got this matchup at first. Thought about it a little bit more. I like the matchup. I don't know. I feel like SMU and Clemson are pretty similar offensively, especially with Kevin Jennings and Cade Klubnik can both create from the pocket. So that's going to be interesting. And we're going to have to deal with that. Gerald, what do you think of Clemson?
I mean, Clemson is a well-coached team. Like, I have my personal issues with Dabo Swinney, but like he's got that coaching staff where it needs to be. He's got them playing really well at the right time, and they've won championships in that program. It's been a minute, but they've won championships. Like, they know what they're doing. Cade Klubnik is a guy who I think would love to come into Austin, come home, and spoil things for the home team. There was that recruitment was that whole cycle was weird at the quarterback position, but I think he would love to come into Austin and walk out with a win. They are a good team. I think he's probably the best quarterback Texas has played this year. I mean, they hit a bunch of backups on the road here, which is fine, but I think he is a guy who can make with his feet. He's got the longest run from scrimmage, I think, for the team, though, and that come from behind win late in the game where he scrambled, I think, 50 yards to score. But Texas has done well against dual threat quarterbacks this year. That's one of the things that Pete Kwiatkowski does really well is figures out how to neutralize a dual threat quarterback. But I'll be honest with you, Klubnik's probably got the best arm of all the dual threat guys that we've seen this year. So it'll be interesting. I think. Texas, I think, is 11.5-point favorite at this point, which maybe feels a little too generous, but that it could also just be Georgia PTSD.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, it's Texas. What happens? Do they execute in the red zone? Do they not execute in the red zone? Do they shoot themselves in the foot? Do they not shoot themselves in the foot? Another thing we didn't mention, they are terrible in the third quarter. For whatever reason, don't know what happens. Are you going to be bad in the third quarter in this game? History says yes. So does the red zone. So, yeah, 11. If all that stuff holds up, then yeah, it is too many points. I think it's probably like a 7-point game because of that. I think it's a low-scoring game as well because we're unable to score because you can't score in the red zone. So that makes complete sense. You have 600 yards in the last 6 quarters, and you have 17 or 16 points or 19 points, total because you didn't score in the half for A&M. So yeah, this is an interesting matchup. I think we're going to be able to. This is a thing too. If we run outside zone early and we run it well, that's going to tell me everything I need to know. Whenever we can execute outside zone and run it down people's throats, we'll win the football game. When you can't do that, we lose the football game. It's kind of that simple, honestly. And for Clemson, how is Phil Maffa? I know he's hurt at the running back position. If he's hurt, they're going to have some issues. They're going to have to really rely on Cade Klubnik. And I like Cade Klubnik. I think he's a decent quarterback, but is he a guy that you want throwing 35, 40 times? No. He'll turn the ball over. And Texas, especially ball hawking defense, will get him to turn the ball over. So it's going to be interesting. I think Clemson's defense is decent with Peter Woods and the defensive line up front. Linebackers are okay. They're not great. They're young. And then secondary's not great. Avian Terrell's their best one. After that, they're kind of meh back there. They definitely miss Andrew Makuba, so thank you for him.
They're best players on Texas defense.
Yeah, I was going to say, but yeah, we're definitely going to miss him when he leaves next year. But yeah, overall, I think this is a solid football team. But if Texas plays to the level that we know they're capable of, we should win this game by 2 to 3 scores, honestly. We should. Does that mean that will happen? No, because there are games that we should have, like, we were up big and then we let teams come back. Really, the only team we blew out was Florida. That was a third-string quarterback. They, honestly, I don't think they really cared about that game. They kind of treated it like that. Once they went down, they were like, you know what? We don't have a quarterback. We're not going to win this game. Let's mail this in. So we'll see what happens. I think it'll be a good game for a half, and then I think Texas will pull away, I'm hoping. But this is just, again, early view. We'll get into it deeper next week, but overall, it's going to be a very interesting matchup.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be – I don't think they're going to play defense as well as Georgia or even Texas A&M, so I feel like the offense should be able to move the ball better. And their offense is solid, but again, like you said, is Maffa going to be healthy? And if he's not, then that puts a lot on Cade Klubnik's shoulders. And, you know, Pete Kwiatkowski schematically is really, when you have to rely on one thing, he's really good at taking that thing away. So if that is the case and they have to rely on Klubnik on his own, I like Texas for sure.
Yeah, so that's the thing. If I had to compare him to a team, I would compare him to A&M with a slightly worse defense, but a slightly better offense. That's what I think they are.
So, I think that's fair. I think it's completely fair.
Yeah, so, and we should have beat A&M 31-0. But again, we didn't execute in the red zone and it was 17-7. So that's what I could definitely see that. I could literally see, again, 17-7 because we just shoot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah.
And what Texas, to me, can you execute for a half? Because if you can just execute for a half and get up like 21-3 or something like that and force Cade Klubnik to throw, I think you win the game pretty easily. It's, again, if you're going to allow them to run the football, allow them to run Cade Klubnik, it's going to be interesting. It will get close. And listen, you may disagree with Dabo Swinney on some things, but he has national championships. He's a good coach. And I don't want that game tied in the fourth quarter with that guy on the sideline. I just don't want that. So I think you'll know pretty early, honestly, if this game's going to be close or not. So, because Texas, once in a blue moon, will show up and just absolutely obliterate their opponent in the first half. We've seen it versus Oklahoma State. We saw it versus Texas Tech down the stretch last year. But really, other than those two games the last 2 years, I'm trying to think of any other game where we came out and just, damn, we just jumped all over them. Florida, I don't think there's really any other game like that. Like, we didn't do that even versus Oklahoma when we beat them 34-0. So it's going to be interesting.
It will, like you said, I think we'll know early on if Texas can get those edges. If Quatravian Weisner is able to find some space in the outside zone scheme, then I think Texas is able to roll pretty easily.
I agree. Again, we'll dive into that deeper next week. And also, I'm going to try to set up a crossover with the Clemson guys as well. So stay tuned for that, guys. If we can get that set up, I think it'll be a lot of fun. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. Again, it really helps out. Again, use that Amazon link in the description. Does not change the buying process whatsoever. Also, check out Mark's Call-In Show Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning. That helps out his channel. Subscribe over there as well. And then also go over to the Old Miss channel and subscribe over there to help them out as well. It really helps out what we're trying to grow as a brand, guys. Thank you very much. Next up, the transfer portal did open for business. I think there's like 700 plus guys in there right now, which is just crazy. And it's just getting started. And there's some good players. We'll talk about the Texas players real quick that did jump into the portal right now. I still expect like 7-8 more guys. Yeah. But for right now, we have Darian Gillette, linebacker, redshirt freshman. He did appear in 4 games. The guy that we actually talked about. And during part of spring ball, because of the injury issues, we ran him at running back a little bit. Aaron Bryant, which a little bit of a surprise there, redshirt sophomore. With the amount of depth we have there, I think he would get playing time next year. Unless, again, it's hard to tell, guys, because there's agents talking behind scenes. Texas may already have 3 to 4 guys lined up, and then Sark's just like, hey, brother, we got this lined up. You should probably just leave. That happens too. So I don't know. But personally, if that doesn't happen, he'd probably get real playing time here if he's decent. So we'll see what happens with him. Akina at linebacker and edge sophomore. I was somewhat surprised there as well because linebacker, you're going to have some more reps. David Benda's leaving. There will be a spot to fill there. We're not going to play Leona Lafau and Anthony Hill all snaps of the game. Someone else is going to have to step up and play there. Could have been him, but I guess not. Well, we're definitely going to have to get a linebacker in the portal. Jere Bledsoe, a guy that we've been talking about here for a long time, of super athlete freak that we thought was going to play. So I think he still has high upside. We'll see what happens with him in the portal. And then obviously Jonte Cook, he left a long time ago. He jumped in the portal. We knew that was going to happen. So those are the guys right now. I still expect more. What do you think about the guys jumping in the portal, those guys?
Yeah, like you said, Aaron Bryant is one that's surprising because I think there's a pretty clear path to playing time for him. I wasn't as surprised by Akana making a dip just because he's kind of a tweener. He's not really he's not really a true linebacker. He's not really a true edge. So if he could play, true linebacker, I think there's a spot, but he also kind of came up as an edge, but he's not quite as big as he needs to be. Also, his sister's graduating this year as well, so I think the tie to campus is also not going to be there for him. His sister's one of the studs on the volleyball team, so this is her last semester, so there's part of that, I think, going into play as well. There is going to be like you said, there's going to be more. They're obviously probably doing exit interviews for guys right now, kind of giving them the lay of the land and what's happening. Galette's another one that hurts. I thought Galette was going to be a dude. I really thought he had a lot of potential for Texas. I think he was a plus athlete, but maybe just the position didn't click for him. I'm not sure what went wrong there because it's hard when you see a guy who's that athletic and that explosive not pan out. It's got to be something between the ears generally. I'm not saying he's not smart or anything. I'm just saying sometimes it just doesn't click. The scheme just doesn't click with your skill set, and that's a fair thing that happens. It happens all the time.
Yeah, I think he tore his ACL at 1.2 on campus, so I think that had something to do with it as well. And then I kind of had the writing on the wall with him whenever you get moved to running back, you're like the first choice. I was like, there's probably not a long-term future here if you're trying to already push him to running back when you really need it. So I kind of saw that happening. And then obviously we've seen Jonte Cook happen for a while. That was the least or most expected thing to happen. Now there's so many good players I have written down right here in the portal. I'll just run through them real quick. And then if you have any other ones, we can talk about them as well. But Eric Singleton Jr., as soon as he jumped in the portal from Georgia Tech, I was like, that meets every criteria Steve Sarkisian ever wants in a wide receiver. 5'10" guy that absolutely flies, has good production, plays in an offense that really, he had 754 yards in an offense that wants to run the football primarily, and he is fast. He is on a Georgia Tech track team. He meets every criteria Steve Sarkisian wants. He's already being looked at by Alabama, A&M, Georgia. He is a hot commodity in the transfer portal. You're going to have to jump on him quick, and I don't even see us mentioned right now, which sucks because honestly, early on in the transfer portal, if you're not mentioned first, you're probably not going to land that guy, but I would love to have this guy.
Yeah, he's one that I think would fit a lot of what Texas needs. And on the other side of the ball, Jacob Manu from Arizona is a guy who I'm curious to see. Johnny Nansen probably has him in there to get him. He is coming off of a knee surgery, won't be ready for spring, but Texas needs linebackers, and he has been a ridiculously productive linebacker for Arizona. So I hope Nansen can get in on that one because that's another one that I think would benefit Texas and fill a need.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, he doesn't have to come back right away. We still have good top-level players at linebacker. We just need, like, that third or fourth guy to step up because you have Mo Blackwell there, and then you have, obviously, Leonard Lafau and Anthony Hill at his peak, his third year. He should be amazing next year. He should have been a Butkus finalist already. He will be. Listen, if they did what they did for Danny Stutzman, he'll win the award this year. That's what I'll say about that. Or next year, I should say. Yeah. Another wide receiver, Nick Anderson. I would love to have this guy. He fits it too because he's fast, gets down the field, and he's a very good blocker too. And we all know Steve Sarkisian loves his wide receiver screen, so this guy would fit perfectly in this offense.
No block, no rock. No, I think it's absolutely true. Like Nick Anderson is a guy. You rarely see the rival flip. Does he do the reverse Brendan Thompson? I'd be fine with it. But I think he'd add a lot more value than Brendan Thompson did this year. So I think there's an opportunity there. Again, Texas is probably going to end up taking. If I had to guess, I think they're going to take a wide receiver. I think they're going to take probably a running back, and I think they're probably pretty heavy on the defensive side, interior defensive line and linebacker. So, yeah, Nick Anderson is a guy who I would love to see in burnt orange. He's tormented me enough in crimson, so I'd love to see him on the other sideline.
Yeah, I think we'll take one high level wide receiver, and then again, like a lower level guy that's like a rotational guy just in case anyone gets hurt. Because we still have really good talent there, and with the recruiting class coming in. But next year, I think it's going to be a lock. You're going to have Moore starting, Wingo starting, and then to me, I think whatever portal guy you get will start. And then you might like ease in the Khalil Lockett's, the Parker Washingtons, the Jamie French type guys. I don't see any of those guys unless Khalil Lockett. Like, listen, I like Khalil Lockett. I've said this, and I might be wrong, but I think he's the best wide receiver recruit in the country. I think he's better than Corey Moore. That's my opinion on that. I'm in the vast minority on that, but we'll see what happens when he gets to campus. You never know. And then some other wide receivers I'll just jump on real quick. Kevin Concepcion, Barry and Brown, and Mario Craver. I don't think Kevin Concepcion's going to come here. He hasn't been linked here, but he's a really productive player for North Carolina State.
Yeah, he's been really, really good. You mentioned Barry and Brown too. I remember his recruitment being weird, so I don't necessarily know if there's going to be much of a Texas interest there. So yeah, I mean, Texas is going to take. You mentioned Texas taking a floor guy and a ceiling guy. Like that's how you have to evaluate your transfer portal needs, right? Do you need to raise the floor or do you need to raise the ceiling, right? And that's how Texas is able to look at it. They're in an advantageous position. And so I think any of those guys would raise the floor for Texas pretty significantly at the wide receiver room because we just don't know. You can't end up like you were 2 years ago with Xavier Worthy and then Xavier Worthy, big gap, Jordan Whittington, big gap, everybody else. Like you can't end up back there because that hampered your offense pretty significantly.
Yeah, 100%. And then if something happens, injury, like no, knock on wood, Ryan Wingo gets hurt, and then you're left with DeAndre Moore and who? That's basically that's why you have to, in my opinion, you have to bring in two. Even if you wanted to bring in two high guys and then talk to the freshmen and let them know, hey, listen, you're still part of the plan. We just have to protect ourselves as well. We'll see what happens there. I like Mario Craver with Mississippi State. I think he's a freshman, and he was a good player for them, like a really good player. And let's be honest here, their offense was not very good other than wide receivers and quarterback. They didn't really have a running back. Their offensive line was horrendous. And I think Mario Craver would do really well with Steve Sarkisian. But to me, number one so far, again, this is so far, I think Eric Singleton is the number one wide receiver for Steve Sarkisian, if I had to guess. But we'll see if we get him. And again, behind the scenes, I don't know what's going on. We may have feelers for a guy that hasn't jumped in the portal. It was kind of like that last year where you had all these guys jump in and we're like, well, they're waiting for someone. And then Isaiah Bond jumped in and it was immediate. He was going to go to Texas. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, I mean, there is going to be nobody said Micah Hudson yet, so I have to say it just so you get that mention out there. Don't think it'll happen, but obviously if you don't mention Micah Hudson being in the portal at a Texas live stream, everybody gets mad.
Yeah, I didn't want to mention it because I just don't see it happening. I think he kind of burned. Yeah, he burned his bridge during recruiting, the way he handled that. And let's be honest here, he never really fit the Sark mold to me. He just doesn't fit that mold.
And if you couldn't crack the field of what Tech had at wide receiver, like I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, that's weird. I don't really understand that. Then this name I'm going to bring up is very controversial. I don't really like it, but I could see Texas doing it because of the upside. Barry Alexander.
This is not me. Like, does he fit what Texas needs on the field? Yeah. Maybe, but I just don't like. Texas has been so protective of their culture that I feel like they wouldn't touch him with a 35.5-foot pole, right? I've been watching a lot of Grinch with my kids lately. Like, I do not think Texas would go anywhere near Bear Alexander. He went out west for a payday, didn't go as planned. Does Texas need a defensive tackle in this class? Yes. I would take the hit and not go after Bear Alexander just because, like, what is the culture in your locker room actually worth? Because you've got there's other guys in the portal that I really think you could probably go after. Silver from Kentucky's in there.
Keyshawn Silver. Yeah.
Brownlow Dindy's another guy that I think maybe Texas could kick the tires on from A&M. He's a guy that I think Texas didn't ever really have an in for when they went there, but he hasn't seen the field. And I think he's a guy who could probably come in and find a path to the field pretty quickly. So I'm curious to see how that group plays out. And again, the portal has not been open for very long, so we'll see obviously more names come flooding in.
Yeah, 100%. And I agree. Like he at his best, he is a really good player, like probably a second-round draft pick in the NFL when he plays at his best. But because he honestly isn't really committed to it, I mean, there's so much fluctuation there. And then, like you said, it's not even college. Like I think he's played on, when you include high school, I think he's played on 6 different teams in 6 years, or 5 years or something. It's something crazy. He's a hired gun, basically, at this point. And you don't even know how well his aim is. Let's put it that way. His aim could be erratic.
You can't turn him into a housewife. That's what Ludacris told us. You can't do it.
Yeah, that is true. This guy, I do think at this point is solely linked to Texas. I would actually be kind of surprised if he didn't up here is Julian Humphrey. I think Texas was going to land him last year, went back to Georgia, the cornerback, and I don't mind it. I think he's a good player. He's not a great player. To me, he's kind of what Gavin Holmes is for this team. That's what I think he is.
And I think that's fine. You need a Gavin Holmes. Gavin Holmes made some plays against Georgia. Like, not everybody could be Manny Muhammad. Not everybody could be Jalen Gilbo, right? Not everybody could be John A. Barrett. You need the Gavin Holmes. You need the guy that can come in and give you 15, 20 solid snaps, doesn't get blown up in coverage. Like, that's fine. And you know what? Maybe he just needs a fresh start. Maybe Austin's going to be the right move for him. Yeah, I was surprised he went back in the portal last year. I think Texas is probably going to look, because you're going to lose Barron, you're going to lose Makuba on the back end, you're going to lose a couple of other guys in the secondary. So, like, I think they're going to need to go at least a couple of times in the portal. So I would love to see him in Austin.
Yeah, I think you'll get one cornerback, one safety, it may be two safeties if Michael Taft leaves. I personally believe Texas should pay him. And I think he should come back. Like, I think he should also come back because right now I think he's probably like a 3rd round pick. To me, if you play again like you did this year, you're probably a 2nd or 1st round pick. So
you also can't underestimate how much that kid loves being in Austin, loves the University of Texas. Yeah. Like, there's something to be said about that draw as well.
Yeah, 100%. And then just to throw this name, because he's just too good, Luke Haas from Arkansas, he's a really damn good tight end, and we love tight ends in the Sark offense. The only thing is you have Jordan Washington, you have Michael Terry, who's probably mostly going to play tight end here as a freshman. You have Nick Townsend as well coming in. So I don't know if you could bring him in without disturbing that room. I don't know. We'll have to see. But he's a really, really good player. Like, if he was healthy last year, he would have been all SEC as a freshman. That's how good of a player he is.
Yeah, and again, you're going to lose a big chunk of that room. Gunnar Helm's gone. Juan Davis is gone. Nyblack, I'm not sure if does he have anyone?
Yeah, I have no. Yeah, he has more eligible, but I have no idea what he's going to do.
I mean, he hasn't seen the field, so we might see him in the portal soon. But so I'm curious. Like, I think Texas probably does need to add one. Do you add a top end kid, or do you add kind of a floor kid? I'm not sure what, but they know this roster. And Jeff Banks, again, like I said earlier, Jeff Banks is an incredible tight end coach. He got Jatavian Sanders to where Jatavian Sanders was last year. So, like, I'm not going to doubt his management of that room. I'd love to have him. Do you need him? Time will tell.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. Yeah, I have no idea what Amari Nyblack's going to do. And the thing is, what I think you could pitch to Luke Haas and pitch to everyone else is this is a one-year thing. He's going to be so good here, he'll be off to the NFL. And I think everyone honestly would be okay with that. But I don't know if Luke Haas wants that. We'll see what happens. But I think, like, the young kids behind him would be like, yeah, 1 year, I can deal with that. Whereas, like, if he's going to be there multiple years, I don't think they would be okay with that for the most part. And then also, I have literally no idea. Amari Nyblack could be fine with the situation. He could not be. He could be somewhere in between. I don't know. There's no read on him. I have no idea what he's going to do.
Neither do I. And I think it has been disappointing is not the right word, because I think Gunnar Helm has been so good this year that you almost haven't missed it. But I really expected a lot from him. So I wonder if he's got another year in him to try to get things back on the right track.
Yeah, because I think he's a redshirt sophomore, I believe. So he's definitely got time, but we'll see what he decides. And then I just wrote down, because I didn't really see anyone that stood out to me, but to me, for Texas, other than Bear Alexander, if you don't want him, you're gonna have to go get 2 to 3 defensive tackles. I think you're gonna have to get 2 high-level ones,
yep.
And then you can get a rotational guy. That's the biggest area of need. Period. There is no other area this team needs like a lot. The edges are good. You don't even have to pick up an edge. Like, we have 4 or 5 guys at edge. We're fine there. Linebacker, I think you have to go get 1, maybe 2 there. Wide receiver, again, 1 or 2. And then offensive tackle, I think you're going to have to go get 1. I think we're good at the guards. We're going to be good at the center. I like the talent there. And I think Trevor Gooseby will be good enough to play either left tackle or right tackle. I don't know about the other one. Like, I haven't seen Brandon Baker play. I know he's a 5-star prospect, but to me, go get a tackle. You have to go get a tackle to at least provide some competition there.
Yeah, the kid from Rice, I can't remember his name. Ethan Oniyawa is a kid who he's played really, really well for Rice. And Texas has a good track record with bringing tackles over from Rice. Calvin Anderson worked out really well for Texas. Yeah. It worked out really well for him. He's a guy who he's played a lot of football and hasn't given up a lot of sacks as a tackle. You don't have to ask him to play left, because I think Gooseby or Baker can probably slot in there. So if you have him play right tackle, he's a guy who can come in, play in Austin for a year, and let some of those young guys get their feet underneath them. be a stopgap for a year, play really well, go get yourself drafted. Like it feels like the perfect arranged marriage, for lack of a better term. Like it seems so transactional, but I think there's an opportunity there for something like that.
Yeah, and even if Cam Williams comes back, you could still bring in someone like that and then have Baker, Gooseby, and him compete and see who wins, honestly. That may cause one of them to transfer, but to me, I would rather have a good left tackle and know that than have no competition there. We go in there and then Arch Manning's getting blasted from his blind side weekly. So I think you have to do that. Interior, I think we're going to be pretty good at, because I do agree. I think DJ Campbell will be back. I think Cole Hudson will probably be your left guard at that point. And then you have a competition at center. And everything I've heard is Daniel Cruz is a really good player. Like, he was already the backup center. So I trust him. I think he'll be fine there. I'm not saying he'll be Jake Majors senior level, but I think he'll be a pretty good player his first year.
It took Jake Majors 5 years to get to Jake Majors senior level.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're gonna have to be okay with giving Cruz some of the benefit of the doubt when he comes in. But like Cruz, you saw his tape. You look at his high school tape. He's a ready-made center. He's a guy who's going to step in, and it's going to be good. I'm glad Texas had a pipeline of centers for a while, weirdly enough, and it kind of fell off under Herb Hand, like a lot of things on the offensive line fell off under Herb Hand. So I think getting back to that point, having Cruz step in, play for 3 years, next man up, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about the interior. And then cornerback, we already touched on, and these are the last two. We need a kicker and we need a punter, and we need them badly. So go out there, a punter especially. My God, go get a punter that we're used to. A Michael Dixon. This is still funny to me. So Ryan Buchevsky, after Michael Dixon, everyone was like, "Oh, this guy sucks. This guy's terrible." You would pay ungodly amounts of money for Ryan Buchevsky to come back and punt for Texas right now. Like, I don't know what is. I'm sure what are you looking up his stats right now? Because I bet they're so much better than Michael Kearns is not even close.
It's wild. Like, looking at him, the last two punters that Texas ran off both punted really well for SMU in the year after they left Texas. Because you got Buchevsky, and then Isaac Pearson is punting for them now at SMU. Did a good job over the weekend. Didn't lose them the game. Was able to flip the field. Like, I was a big Isaac Pearson fan. I don't know what happened with the pro kick guys in Austin. Like, Texas hit on one, and then the next two were really not what Texas wanted. They ran them off fast. You got to figure that out. I don't know.
I mean, Ryan Sanborn was really good for us last year. At one point, he was just as good as Michael Dixon was during his year. So it's like, can we get back to listen, you don't even have to get back to that. Can you give me an average punter? Because right now, I think we are legitimately dead last in punt average.
Just don't suck. Don't suck. The defense is good enough. Just don't suck. Like, that's all I need from a specialist. Just do your job, punt the ball 40 yards, get off the field. Like, that's all I need. All I need from you. Like, just don't suck.
And the funny thing is, we were talking about how bad the red zone offense was. If we had, like, if you could give me Cameron Dicker back and place him on this team, we would have won the game yesterday, even with how bad the red zone offense was. Like, this team can legitimately, because the defense is so good, if you get to the red zone and just make your field goals, you can still probably win. You could probably get to the national championship game if you just don't shoot yourself in the foot and throw costly turnovers that lead to scores, and you make your field goals.
That's it.
That's how good this defense is.
It's how Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but that's the thing. We can't get out of our own way with that. We're missing 30. We're barely making 39-yard field goals. He almost missed the 39-yarder before the false start.
If I talk anymore about kickers and punters, my blood's going to shoot out of my eyeballs, man. I cannot do it.
How about this? Can we go back in time, take Bert Auburn from last year and bring him to this year's team and switch? Just all you have to do is switch them. That's all we got to do, because
that feels fair. That feels fair.
Different kickers.
That feels fair. And just go to the club soccer team. Find a guy and be like, "You're our new kicker." Like, let's just go. Go to you know what, Lexi Missimo. Go find one of the Texas studs on the women's soccer team. Man, they went deep in. They had a run in the tournament. I'm just saying, like, can they kick? Just go out there, find one, find somebody. Have open tryouts. I don't know. Gotta make them.
Yeah, 100%. It's very frustrating, but that does it for the transfer portal. Obviously, we'll be touching on this a lot more as more guys flow in and out of it. I think you're going to see here. I'll give you a buy or sell, because I heard this on another show. Buy or sell. Texas has at least one transfer portal player sign before we play Clemson.
Ooh, I'm going to buy it. I think I'm going to buy it. I think there's probably, like, let's just be honest. Everybody's back channeling. Everybody's tampering. It is what it is. There's no way to prove it. So, like, I guarantee you there's probably somebody that's already in the boat that hasn't even gone in the portal yet. So I'm going to buy.
I agree. I think there'll be someone to buy. I mean, there's 2 weeks till we play that game. There's going to be like you said, guys back channeling. There could be someone already committed that's on another team, which is crazy to say that. I don't like it, but that's how it is. That's how it works. There's going to be guys that jump in the portal last minute and then immediately know where they want to go. That's how that works. So we'll see what happens, but that does it for the 32nd edition of Texas Longhorns Live. We really appreciate you guys joining us. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below and share this out. We are going to be here every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We might have a special edition if it can't work out for a Monday or Wednesday for the Clemson guys. We'll try to figure that out, but I do want to do a crossover with them at some point next week. So guys, check that out on both the Texas and Clemson channel. And then also check out our Twitters. That is mine right there on Twitter. And this is Gerald's right there. He is the podcast host as well at the Longhorn Pod. You can check them out on Twitter. Him and his college friend do it. They do a really good job over there. So check that out as well. And again, guys, please hit that like button, subscribe, and hook 'em.
Hook 'em.